Alright, welcome to Unreal Engine 4 tutorial. I'm going to show you how to make this door. So you walk into it and it swings back closed. This is useful for just level development. I've had a few people ask me how to make this, so I thought I'd do a quick tutorial on how to build this thing. It also restricted to a certain opening amount. Alright, cool, let's get started. So what we want to do, get rid of this guy. What we want to do is, to start off with, we're going to be creating a folder in here that we can keep all of our stuff together. So we're going to call it Swinging Door Tutorial. There we go, this guy here. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to find the mesh that we're going to make our component out of. So if we go into starter content and into props, and we're going to open small door. Now, so we're going to click on small door, and what we want to do is we want to create a new blueprint that uses the static mesh. So we're going to right click it here, and we're going to say asset actions, create blueprint using this. Perfect. We're going to put it in the swinging door tutorial folder, and we're going to call it swinging door. Real original, I know. Won't leave a space. Right. We now have a door. Now, this is the blueprint editor if you're not familiar with it. So over to the left here we have the components that make up this blueprint, and on the right here we have all of the properties of while we're editing. So the first thing we're going to do is, you'll notice that if you try to scale, you can't scale this object. Oh, you totally can. What I meant to say was there's no editor controls on this, so you can't rotate it or do anything like that with it. So what we're going to do is create a new root component, which will be an arrow. And what that'll do is it will act as the highest priority component. And so our door, which is a child of the arrow, can be moved around and scaled around and things like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to name this door, give it a helpful name, and we're going to have the door, we're going to have a pole that the door swings on, and we're going to have a hinge, which is a physics constraint. And so we're going to add a new cube that's going to be our pole. I'm going to make that a child of the arrow. Just go attach. We're also going to make a hinge, and it'll be a physics constraint. So if we spell physics correctly, we add that, and we'll just call it hinge. And I'm also going to make that a child of arrow, so they're all on the same level. We are going to take this pole, and we're going to adjust it so that it's thinner and more like a pole. That means scaling it down, its x is going to be 0.1, its y size is going to be, oh, these are all locked together. Y size is going to be 0.1, and its z size is going to be 2. And I can move that around so that it's pretty much the same height as our door here, which is what we want. Alright, perfect. The next thing is to set up this hinge. Actually, notice our door's intersecting there. We'll just move it across so that they're side by side. Right, hinge. Let's take this guy, and we're going to move it up to the middle-ish. It doesn't matter that much. I'll move it up to the middle-ish. And now, we'll see in the properties here, there's component name 1, component name 2. This is the two things that it's attached to. So for the first one, we're going to be talking about the pole. All we have to do is type in pole, and it's now referencing this guy here. So that's referring to the name that we gave it. So make sure it has the right name. We type in door, and that's now referencing the door. And these are the limitations that this physics constraint applies. So we want the only one to be activated is the swing 1 motion. And we'll lock those, so now it just says free. Okay, let's test this guy out and see how it goes. We're gonna minimize that and go into our swinging door tutorial folder and dump our swinging door in the middle of the level. One thing you notice is it's currently clipping with the floor. Just going to lift it slightly off like that to make sure there aren't any collisions with the floor. We hit play, we walk up to it, and we go right through it. Alright, that's not what we want. We want to push against it. We want to collide with it, and the player pushes it. So we're going to have to simulate physics on this object. Let's go back over to our swinging door by double-clicking on it. And we get this particular object. We want to enable physics, simulate physics. We notice this will be grayed out unless you've used your own object. That's because there aren't any collisions set for this mesh, and so the game doesn't know what counts as a collision. So what we're going to do is we're going to open this asset, the static mesh, and the game starter content props small door. We'll open that by double-clicking it. And we're going to add some collisions to some collision bounds to this particular mesh. So what we can do, we're going to make a copy of it, and we're going to call it small door like normal, but we're going to save it in our swinging door tutorial folder, like so. Awesome. We've now got our own copy of it. If we go over to collision and add box simplified collision, we now have a collision. So this is automatically generated as what it thinks would be a good collision. I'm not 100% happy with that. I think it could be a little bit thinner. So I'm going to switch to a view that lets me see that, the front view in this case. And I can click on the box and resize it like I would anything else. I'm just pressing the space key to cycle through these. You can also use the W, E and R keys, W, E, R, to cycle through these. Go to the scale option, and you'll have to set it to be quite fine so that you get the good resolution of scaling. And I'm going to bring that down to be just covering the door. And now if I go back to perspective mode, I can see that it is indeed just the width of the door, and that's good enough. So I'll save that. Now I can close that, and I'll go back to I now have the swinging door blueprint and the copy of the door static mesh that I made. I'll reopen the blueprint, go to my viewport, and now instead of referencing the small door and the starter content, I want this to reference the door with the collisions enabled, and that's going to be this guy under swinging door tutorial. Awesome. When I click on it, there's now a simulate physics option. We're going to click that. Now let's see what that's done to our game. Well, that's interesting. We push against it and it seems to snap to the nearest 90 degrees. And the reason for that is it's actually interacting with this pole here. It'll try to turn and it's just kind of getting stuck. So what we want to do is we want to say, alright, this pole is great and all, but we want it to ignore any collisions it has with any other objects, because it's essentially not here as far as we're concerned. So, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. So we go back to our blueprint. We select our pole and we say, hey yo, under collisions, if we just go custom, and we say instead of blocking all of the things, ignore all of the things. And even further, we're going to click hidden in game, and that's now not going to be visible in the game. And so when I hit play, suddenly that pole's not visible anymore, and this door is swinging freely. Well, it's a bit wonky. You'll notice it's looking kind of weird. So the reason for that is this physics constraint needs to be centered on the point that we want it to rotate on. We can fiddle with that. Again, I made the same dumb mistake. We can fiddle with that. So we select our hinge, and we notice that it's not quite lined up. We want it to be along the seam here. So I'll go view it from a different angle, and I'll just position it so it's right in the middle there, and also making sure that that it's in the center of the door here. I might actually move it up as well, so it's in the center of the object. Alright, let's see if that did what we wanted. I think it's close enough. It's the first rule of graphics, is if it looks right, then it is right. Alright, so from here, what we want to do is we want it to be constrained so that it only goes 120 degrees, because in real life, doors don't swing all the way around. So we've got a perspective, and we select our hinge, and there's an option here somewhere. Instead of it being free to swing around that motion, we'll go limited. And we want to limit it to 120 degrees. Sounds about good. And we go back to playing our game. And now it stops at 120 degrees in either direction. That's its maximum. You can not have that or leave it as you wish. It will collide. If there's a wall here, it would just collide with the wall. So that's just up to you how you want that. Alright, the last thing we're missing is it returning to center by itself. At the moment, I'll try to get it to stop somewhere. At the moment it doesn't really return to center, it just kind of stops by itself. So, again, I make the same mistake. What we want to do is, there's an angular motor that we want to enable for twist and swing, but only for swing. It has a strength, the default strength is 50, we're going to leave it at 50. And let's see if it does its magic. Push against it, and it's like it's got a spring, because it will eventually settle. Now the reason for why it's going so long is there's no linear friction, there's no angular friction on this door. We can fix that too. We can control everything. So if we click on the door, there's angular dampening. If we add that to say 1, then it's going to dampen it turning at an angle. And now that didn't really help so much. Did I save that? That could be the problem. It's compiled. Angular dampening is set to, we'll set it to 5. We don't need gravity technically. That's not really important though. Hinge. Alright, let's try that. And sure enough, it's dampened. Just like we wanted. Now you can play with those strength settings as much as you want. You notice the door moves quite quickly. You might want to add to its weight that it's simulated. That's just under the door settings. There'll be a weight here somewhere. Under physics, perhaps. Mass in kilograms is currently, it was auto-generated as 39. Let's make it 100 kilos for a door. And now it's harder to open, and it has more momentum. We just fiddle with those until you're happy with it. The great thing about using blueprints is that you can use them again and again wherever you want in your level, and they scale quite nicely. So if I decided I wanted a door twice as big, I could totally do that, and it would work. Awesome. Well, hopefully this has been useful to someone. And yeah, that's it. Awesome. See ya.